This episode of the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast has been brought to you by our sponsors at Sweet Cheetah Publicity. Sweet Cheetah is a PR collective that values people over profit. They put a different spin on public relations by working primarily with friends and using all profits to aid charitable organizations. With a roster that includes Jawbox, The New Amsterdams, Brainiac, Get Some, Funeral Date, Damian Dunn, and many more artists, record labels, and podcasts. Sweet Cheetah. That's a great PR cohort. You can find them on social media by simply searching Sweet Cheetah PR, and they'll be there. He's been Tim. I've been Peter, and Sweet Cheetah has been beautiful.
How y'all going?
Good, man. We just practiced a little bit earlier, and now we're doing this.
Right on.
How about you, Mike? How you doing?
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
So now
not fully here right now. It's been a kind of crazy few days, and yeah, just intense.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Deepen your passions, stressing you out and shit.
what's that?
To deepen your passions and stressing you out and shit.
Well, just the whole situation over there, man.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
the injustice of it all, and I don't want to talk about it. It's just need to not think about it right now.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
been like 3 days of nonstop, all-encompassing shit, and I know a lot of people on the ground out there and getting firsthand accounts and all that, and it's just like so intense, and we can't even begin to fathom what that's like.
Right.
And also, you just can't talk about it right now without pissing somebody off.
that's the part that it's kind of been distressing for me because I have a little bit Ashkenazi Jew in me, and yet still I'm very pro free Palestine, and I catch a lot of flack for that.
Yeah.
Which I find completely moronic because it's nothing to do with faith, man. It's about sovereignty.
Yeah.
It's strictly about sovereignty, and once people kind of catch that lead, I think they'll start to understand that that this is violence for the sake of capitalism and nothing more.
Yeah.
And
And it's about international law and human rights, and when that's being abused, no matter who's doing it, they need to be held accountable. Anyway, let's move on, because I'll go down that rabbit hole again. And
Yeah.
I promised I'd take a break.
Yeah.
Let's talk about cruise routes. All right. All those days we used to roll around Yellow Springs, listen to fucking New Order and getting real baked.
That sounds good.
Every time I see you fall, I get down on my knees and pray. Yeah, bro. We just loosen it up a little bit.
Good times,
I mean,
man.
It's like, it's hard to be clear-headed and like say the things you mean when you're like constantly kind of constipated with the whole ideas of it, because it fucks you up. So we're shaking it out a little bit right now.
Yep.
so with you guys together, like you all kind of grew up together, basically.
We grew up 10 miles apart and then met up as, early 20s. I think Mike was still, 19?
Late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, yeah. So we,
Me and Wendell have been dudes since we met when we were like 13, 14, and then became real tight in high school, like 15, 16. And we started playing together, right away, basically. I mean, it was like he's a year ahead of me in school. So my freshman year, like we just kind of got up and we're like, yeah, we're doing this now. Cause it's like, we already knew that we were like, the ones that wanted to play in a band and wanted to like write songs and, be a punk rock band.
right. And I was a terrible guitarist, but I had the will. I had the will.
That's the story though. Like just the beginnings of a punk rock band. It's never like a bunch of guys who were like Juilliard level shredders. It's about ideas and passion. So I'm just trying to like imagine you guys as these young people, you know,
Yeah.
coming together. Like what was that initial kind of push, the first record that made you all want to, you know, bond over this project? Was there something that was really like bubbling up at the time that was sort of pushing you all in that direction?
Oh man, I will say right off the bat, fucking Green Day.
Yep.
I mean,
100%.
like, definitely the whole grunge, like Seattle sound for me and like junior high, but then, getting into Green Day, obviously, like Dookie was the entry point for all of us because of MTV and stuff like that. But then getting into their old stuff, you know, like we got Dookie and we loved it, but then we were always at the CD store, you know, whatever it was, fucking Best Buy a lot of times back in those days or before that. But we got Kerplunk and we got 39 Smooth, or you know, Slappy Hours, whatever, the compilation there, the first two records, and like that was like major, dude.
I remember on my 14th birthday, I got both of those, and people were like, "Oh, you got them both? You son of a bitch, that's awesome!" So we all hung out and fucking listened to the old Green Day, and we were like, "Oh, this is really good." And I think that just kind of opened up the, you know, it's kind of like tripping the first time, and your mind expands. But it was our musical entry point there, and it was, you know, anything from like super pop punk to like MXPX Christian punk into more of the tooth and nails. I mean, really, if it weren't for some of those compilations, the Fat Records comps, random comps that you would find in record stores or at Hot Topic, the comps were for me. That expanded me so much from just the different exposure. And I remember I found the dismemberment plan on one of them, and that was an amazing tune called Manipulate Me, and I was like, this is kind of what I want to go explore and find. And then that opened more doors. And you know how it is when you're exploring music as a teen, man. It's an amazing thing. It's just a world of excitement. I wait for that next thing that really connects with you.
I find that a lot of my attachments to the bands that I had been listening to at that age, I have such a visceral emotional attachment to that. Sometimes I feel like I'm missing out almost with new music, as voracious of a consumer as I am of new music. There's something about those connections that you form, like the neural pathways initially being carved into your brain. It elicits such an emotional response that it becomes your identity as a young person. Is that kind of, you know, what your experiences were like as well?
100%.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, there's still, it's like I said, I had to highlight those first couple Green Day records because those songs will come on and like I still know all the words. You know what I mean? Like we have a good friend who plays in like locally in like a Green Day tribute band. And they'll do a show. They usually like once, twice a year. And I'll go and see them. And it's like it for me. Like I'm the dude up there singing every word. Because they do all basically up till whatever, 95 Green Day. Like they could just go up to Insomniac and that's about it. but like I'm the dude up there singing every single word to every song. You know, like that's my shit.
For me, like by the time the Promise Ring hit, like those things like were settling in for me. So it's like, you know, I'm an old man. I don't look for new music. Sometimes it hits me, it's cool. I'm down, but it's just I've got other things going on. And it's like fall has started, so it's like every year, like the playlist hits. It's like Sunny Day, and you know, Braids, Frame and Canvas. It's things, you know, from fall of my 17th year of life, basically, and they fall in every year. So I definitely understand. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, but like there's that time machine aspect of it. It's like you put them on, you're right back there. And I feel like to create music that elicits that sort of response is not only a special thing, but it's almost like you have like a responsibility to these younger people who are forming these same attachments. Do you ever feel like the pressure of that when you're like, especially with the coming back after all this time with a brand new record? Was that something that was in mind, or is this more straight up just like a complete labor of, love and reinvention for you?
I think it's just the natural progression. It's just kind of, well, I mean, I've written a lot of songs over the years, so I'm thankful that a lot of them appear on this EP, because it just seems like that, that's my grown up sound, I guess. I don't write as heavy or as crazy, but still like it intense and sound emotive, make it move people in a certain way. So I think that's really, we're just authentic, showing up and doing our thing. So
How about lyrically for you? How is this differently, Michael, between, Shadyside of yore and today for you?
Yeah. Well, back when we talked about it, was actually let me just set the backdrop real quick. So back in Wrecking Ball Festival here in Atlanta, years back, can't remember what year it was.
It'd been like 2017, probably, right?
Something like that. I went there with a buddy, Chris N from Dayton, as well as Tim and Earl came down. There was a little Dayton posse. We met up. We did the fest together. And going to a fest like of, emo, punk, hardcore music, which I hadn't done in ages, kind of gave me that itch again, and watching it in that context. And Tim just kept like saying, "When's Shadyside getting back together?" And I was like, man, come on, like, shit failed. And but through the course of that weekend and spending time with cats from Dayton again, and thinking about that and getting that sound in my bones again, it just kind of gave me a little bit of an itch. Like, well, what if we did try to do a few songs? And I can't remember how it all came about, but I think I remember saying, hey, if you guys ever want to throw me some instrumentals, I'd love to just remotely put some vocals on it at some point. And it just kept getting pushed back. And this is how I work. I'm like, I put everything off until it's like something I have to do. Some engine kicks off in my gut, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write the next Shadyside record in a week, and then I'll just burst through it, and then I'm completely shattered afterwards and go collapse. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to approach this differently, because the Shadyside of old, and I think we might have touched on this stuff in maybe when we talked before, but I was very into psychedelics and the beat generation and playing with words, and I had a lot of fun with words. It was all very much the old Shadyside, screaming, and then here's the singing part. Try to sing as high pitched as I can, get all up in that range for the feels, and screams all the burl. And it just didn't suit that kind of thing. Didn't suit where my voice was at now and how I was feeling about making music. And I just wanted to approach it with a more direct feeling and delivery, so it's kind of in between singing and screaming, I suppose. It's more shouting. I mean, there's more of like a Hot Water music and Planes Was Taken for Stars kind of punky influence, I suppose. And it's just more genuine with how I'm feeling now, or I was feeling at the time. I mean, it's shifted even since then. I've been working on some new stuff with these guys as well, and pushing the boat out a little bit more, getting a little weirder again, kind of tying in a little bit of the old stuff with the new stuff. So, we're still making some new stuff too, and it's kind of exciting the way it's going. So, but anyway, I completely rambled there.
Hell yeah.
So like going back to like the whole youth of it all, I'd like to touch on how you guys actually formed, how the Voltron of it all came together for you all.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
these guys were all playing before as a
Yeah.
band. So, you know, you can tell that story and then we can catch up once you get to me.
Right.
Well, that's like I was kind of hinting at before. When I already knew Wendell from like junior high, and then he was, like I said, a year ahead of me. So my freshman year at Fairborn High School, you know, I was 15. Wendell was a sophomore. We already knew each other. We already knew we wanted to play music. So it was like almost instantly we got a thing going and we started playing. And at that point, Vinny, who's our bass player now, he was originally a guitar player. Me and him both started out as guitar players when we were about 13, but he started playing drums and he was more of the drummer. And then, excuse me, my freshman year, Adrian, who now plays keys for us, I knew him sort of through Wendell and some of these other like older friends of mine. And I knew he was a guitar player and we just happened to be in the same gym class. So like the first week of freshman year, we met in gym class and we were both like, hey, you're that guy. Wait, you're that guy. Yeah. And then we kind of hit it off and Wendell was in the mix and it was like me and Vinny and our old friend Rob, who we recruited to play bass. And then Adrian and Wendell, and it just kind of came together as a group. And we started playing together when we were, you know, like I said, when I was a freshman, 15, and then on from there, 15, 16, we started playing and we started playing shows. And at that time, the band was called Miscellaneous. And we continued that on through, I think, like my first couple of years of high school. And then Vinny quit the band to play in this other hardcore band. And so it was just me and Wendell and Rob and Adrian. And we forced Adrian to play drums because he was on guitar at this point, but we knew that he could play drums like really well. He's one of these people that can just play anything. And we knew that he could play drums. So we kind of forced him into it. And that was the birth of Shadyside, because it was like Miscellaneous was the band, our first band had died, Vinny quit, and then we forced Adrian into playing drums, and then it became Shadyside. And that was actually, I think my senior year of high school, we recorded like our first demo. And that was the first demo, honestly, that made it into the hands of Michael. We released it on cassette at first, and then we ended up putting it on CD and selling it at shows and stuff like that. And so we were playing out by that point. And
It's so good, that record. I mean, just to step in here, because like, you know, simultaneously, well, I was probably not playing in a band yet when you released that record, but I started going to shows locally when I first started playing in my first band, which is Panamia out of Yellow Springs. And Shadyside, I saw them one time at KFC, I believe that was called. No.
Knights of Columbus.
Knights of Columbus, maybe.
Yeah, on
Where was it?
Burkhart.
Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
Yeah.
We used to go there all the time. I was just making sure the name was what it was. And yeah, I remember seeing them and having that record and just thinking it was the best local band I'd seen, you know. And, you know, it was like I tried to learn some of the words and stuff. I just thought they were awesome. And, you know, I saw them a couple more times, and they had this singer who was called Anthony, who used to be their singer. After that record was released, because that record was done with just you two on vocals.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Anthony
Originally,
joined the band, and they started doing different stuff too.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. Anyway, I see them this one show, and Anthony is not singing for the band anymore. And I'm like, huh. And they were just operating as a 4-piece, you know, Chip and Wendell doing double duties. Said duty. And then, yeah, I think I saw him one more show, and it was the same setup. And I was like, oh, shit, they lost their singer. I don't know what happened, but I was like, because I was just starting out in this band. We've been playing for a while. We were all kind of amateurs. And anyway, I approached Chip after the show, and I was like, hey, man, you guys looking for a singer? You know, like, I'd love to try out. And I don't remember what the sequence of events was, but had you seen Panamia play yet before? Or did I invite you to come see us to see what I could do?
Well, no. So the way I remember it basically is, I feel like you might have talked to Vinny, and I just happened to come to a show at Jags. There's this club called Jags that like is right down the street from where I live now, like right where we're sitting. And it's not there anymore. It's like a restaurant now. But anyway, I came to a show and I saw you play with Panamia, and I was like, this fucking guy. I was like, wow, he's got it. You know, like you were going nuts, like you were jumping around. I mean, there was maybe 10 or 15 people there, so you know, it wasn't like a huge deal, but you were like going
It's a huge
off.
deal, bro. Huge.
Yeah, well, no, it's a huge deal, but you were going off and just like, I mean, the performance wise, it was just through the roof. I was floored, and I was like, wow, yeah, this dude.
Okay, it's weird, man. Like memory.
Yeah, no, but
I do remember it was at Jags when I was talking to you. So maybe I had talked to Vinny beforehand or something at a different show, and then that's how that came about.
But it's interesting to note, because I just wanted to say, since you brought up his name earlier, our friend Chris N, that Malarkey went to Wrecking Ball with, like, he was my first choice as far as like, we were trying to find a singer, and we had Chris come to a rehearsal, and everything went great. And I was like, yeah, my dude Chris, yes, you know. But then he basically, like a week later, he's like, man, I had so much fun playing with you guys, but I can't commit. I just can't do it right now. So, and we were just like, oh shit, you know, back to the drawing board. And then I think it was Vinny who was the one that was like, oh dude, you know, old dude Malarkey from Yellow Springs, from Panamia, you know, I think he should try out. Like, I've been talking to him, and I'm gonna set this up. And then you came to try out at that practice space we had at the time, and like, and then it was that was it.
The office.
Yeah.
The old promise.
I definitely felt like it took some convincing, you know, the first time or two.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you know, I was also finding my feet as a vocalist. I mean, there's old footage of us as a band, and I'm mortified, like now, watching some of it, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so pitchy. What am I doing? You know, because I'm just going fucking nuts.
You're putting on a show, my man.
Yeah.
No, I was, but you know, it needed to be a little more contained and precise. You know,
it comes a little bit of
just
age,
playing. But you know, it's always slightly embarrassing when you look at old shit.
Well, I mean, even that though, like, you know, that first tryout, I remember I wasn't sold on you. I'm gonna be honest, and I know I've told you that before.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, you mention it every Christmas.
No, that first tryout though, like, I was like, because I was still stuck on Chris, and you tried out, and it went decent, like it was good, but like, I think you could tell you were a little nervous and stuff. But then afterwards, I think you took off, and Vinny was like, "This is the dude," and I was like, "Yeah, I think you're right, but it's still feeling a little weird." And he's like, "No, man, you just got to give him another chance. This is the dude." And then we did it again, and it was like fucking great. So
I do remember that. Yeah, Vinny
Yeah.
was flying my flag.
Vinny was the champ. He was your champion from day one.
Well, there was always sexual chemistry between us, so always gotta ramp that up when you need to.
Hey.
Sometimes it's just, you got to use your male.
But yeah, I
bravado to
have
do what you
such
need.
fucking great memories of like, especially during the winter. For some reason, it's always the winter. Rocking up to that practice space. It's cold.
Yep.
And like crunching through the snow. You know, it's cold in there too.
Yep.
Rocking out and learning songs. You know, because at the beginning, obviously, I had to learn their stuff right before we started writing. I mean, we did start writing very soon.
Yeah.
Wendell and I developed this kind of routine. You know, I was working at a record store called Dingleberries, believe it or not, in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And
That's true. That's true.
Rest in peace. Chris N was working at the other Dingleberries in Centerville, actually. But yeah, I used to, you know, shut up shop. I'd tell Wendell to meet me down there at close. We'd, you know, flip the sign over, flip out the lights except the ones in the back, and sit between the aisles where all the records were, with just cross-legged with a guitar and a tape recorder, and just write, you know. And so we definitely wrote some of the harmonies and lyrics and stuff sitting there in a closed record store after hours. Like it was a cool time.
There's whiskey involved too, so that helped.
Very whiskey.
I got to experience. I was there like I think one or two of the times, and yeah, it was cool.
We had fun.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's like an element of you know, returning to your first love almost with this record, in a way. It seems to me anyway, because like there's all these intense sense memories tied to your own experiences with the creation of your music back then. What did that awaken those emotions for you guys when it comes to this coming into a new endeavor?
Well, I think partially just from my perspective, you know, there's some of the lyric content. Sorry, I'm very phlegmy today. Sorry. I ate some cheese. Don't normally eat cheese. Anyway, so I feel like lyrically it's more direct. It's more kind of like not about us, but like I didn't want it to be just about me. And by nature, playing, writing and singing with a backdrop of their music did kind of bring stuff back in a certain way. And so, you know, there's a couple songs there that definitely references times gone by. You know, there's one of the tracks called "Winning the Wars," which isn't exactly about that, but in a certain light, it's definitely about memories and practicing and hanging out together and stuff like that. So there's definitely moments of that.
We had a lot of good memories together, and had a lot of fun. Did a lot of mischief, and
Sure.
I mean, we held it together, man. And playing together, I think, always brings me back to that. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm always more confident when I'm with all of you dudes at the same time. It's just like that's one of my places in life, you know, where it's like kind of.
Well, I think, and everyone can relate to this. That time in your life when you're kind of just on the cusp of like adulthood. You know, when it's your first experience of adulthood, and it's like your first time paying rent and bills, and they're all very small, and it's all very easy to manage, and you live together. Whereas now it's just fucking insane, man. But like, it was just such a carefree existence at that time, and it was all about the community, the local scene, the family, and the vibes. And you know, I think took pride in hosting parties and, you know, after parties, and really wanting to create a sense of community. I think we really held a lot of that together through a lot of our consistency with playing live and bringing people out to shows. And it was a really magical time. It really was. It really was.
What was the scene like in your area back then? I remember getting through there a couple times at that in and around that time period, going to Legion of Doom and stuff, because I have a lot of friends that live there.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but there's something different about your scene specifically. It seemed to me anyway that there was a lot less politically charged things, insofar as, there's Nazis over there, and we've got the vegans in the fist fights with this straight edge crew, and this, like, we had a ton of that in Pennsylvania back then.
There was a bit of that, but
yeah, it was some of that. I mean, I think that's funny that you mentioned Legion of Doom, though, because I'd say there's some of that, and a lot of that was directly, I think it was directly taken from a lot of the Columbus crew, a lot of the Columbus kids, because certainly that scene was way more politically like activated, and the whole like More Than Music Fest thing, that was really big at the time. It's crazy too, because I didn't even realize until much later that shit started in Dayton, though.
Yeah.
Like, that fest started in Dayton. I was too young, so I missed out. I mean, that was like 93, 94 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, I went to More Than Music Fest in 98, I think, the first time. And that, I had transitioned to Columbus.
That was such a good show.
Oh, dude. I mean, it was such a part of the Columbus scene, but like, yeah, it was very, very politically conscious, and like that fest, always, I mean, that's why they started calling it More Than Music Fest, because when I think it started, it was just called Dayton Fest. And then maybe the second year they started calling it More Than Music Fest, and then all those people moved to Columbus, or I think the people that started it, or some of them that carried it on, ended up going to like OSU, so it all moved up there. But
I would say the kind of scene Dayton had back then was kind of eclectic, because we would go to shows at this place called Circle Billiards, and it would be, a pop punk band, hardcore punk band, straight up like, 90s emo, promise ringy kind of feel, and then like some straight metal band or a hardcore band. It was just lots of different people trying to vibe.
I think that's what I remember the most, is that every show was such a mixed bag, and that was the fun. It's like, what are we gonna get next? And especially when you're a young kid and you don't know any of the bands, you're literally sitting there like waiting for the next magical thing to happen in front of you. So
yeah, I mean,
it was always just exciting. Like, I remember shows back in the day.
I would say with the ebbs and flows of the scene as it is, I think we did a really good job of building our own DIY community. And as much as it was frustrating back then, and maybe thought like a failure of some sort, being older and wiser, I realized really what we accomplished, and it's pretty awesome. With everybody else that we played with too. I mean, there's a core group of bands and friends of ours that we all just we buckled down, and that brought more bands out of Dayton, and we all supported each other and had shows together, and it was amazing. It's different, so I don't know. I wouldn't want to say it's like very hippie, but it almost felt like we just all had each other's backs, and we were doing each other, something to grow at every month. So.
I don't remember any like rivalries. I mean, there were definitely some more scenestery types. Snooty kind of had to win their praise type shit. But then, then you're like, well, fuck off then. I don't care. But yeah, I don't remember any like band rivalries or anything like that.
One of my favorite compliments ever was Justin, our buddy, was like, I love you guys. You're not seen, man. You just want to hang out and fucking be nice and hang out. Yeah. That's us, dude. So, I mean, we got along with everybody, so that was kind of the vibe. We just like to be there, and we were thankful to be there.
I will say though, the like back to that original like comment, like the first show, I think Wendell and I, the first big local show that Wendell and I both went to was a Food Not Bombs benefit show.
Right.
And like that was huge, like that. And again, like I said, that I think a lot of that came from coming out of the 90s and the early 90s, and that punk scene, and being a little bit more politically aware, and like some of that Columbus like influence some of those people. But like the first show was a Food Not Bombs benefit, and like it was like a fest. It was like 7, 8, 9 bands all day long. First time we went to this venue that he was talking about called Circle Billiards, it was like they called it the Circle Underground for a minute and the Proving Grounds for a minute, and it was like the basement of a pool hall basically. And
one way in, one way out.
yeah. But I mean, that first show, it was mind blowing. I mean, and that spoke to the whole like mixed bill thing. Like it was like pop punk bands. That was the first time I ever heard or saw like a quote unquote emo band. I didn't even know what that was until that show. I just like punk rock and like hardcore. So I mean, it's like you had hardcore, you had pop punk, you had like crusty stuff, you had like weird indie rock, you had like doom metal. I mean, it was like all this stuff, and it just changed our lives, I think, because then not long after that we got involved in that scene and started playing shows.
Right.
Well, your scene is where the first time I got to see Los Crudos was in your area, and seeing Martine on stage changed my entire perspective of what it is to be a front man in a hardcore band. That guy is absolutely tremendous.
That's amazing. Yeah, it was like, I think I saw Crudos, I think it was 98 or 99, More Than Music. I got to see him. So maybe it was same. I don't know if you were at that show, but like it was.
I was, but I believe I want to say it was 93 or 4.
Oh, see, there you got your years on me. You got that.
I'm old, bro. That's it. That's all it is.
Baby face.
No, but for real, man, like that 98 More Than Music, like saw like I saw Crudos and Braid and let's see. I think it was 99 I saw like Reversal of Man, but oh no, His Hero's Gone.
Oh,
fuck,
yes.
dude.
Yes.
Yeah,
Jealous
like
of that. Never
dude, it was like it was amazing.
I don't remember much, but I do remember Raid being awesome.
You don't remember much, you don't say?
No, I don't remember much from that day.
No, Wendell actually, I think Wendell has one of the best memories in the band. He's big.
True.
He comes up with some stuff like an entire conversation we had sometimes. I'm like, when did this happen? Did you record it? Like, you know, he's got a good memory for shit.
Well, I've had entire conversations with Wendell where I don't remember what we talked about. Honestly, we were in varying degrees of sobriety during the time.
Fair enough.
I think I was pretty sober that day. I just had a bad anxiety day, and I think that's where my blackout days come from. You know, I'm like, I can't process this to remember it right now.
Yeah.
But when I do, but no, I mean, all the good times when they're like cataloged. It's like 80s song lyrics up in there, bro. I can get them all for you if you need.
Hell yeah.
So what were you guys are just starting out, you know, you're starting to play around that area. What was like the first big show you guys played as a unit once Michael was in the band and it was, you know, this core group?
I would say, because it's not like we didn't have like I don't think we had a lot of like really what I'd say big show opportunities, but to me personally, the first big one that I can remember, and I don't even remember where this was, but we got asked to open for 12 Tribes. 12 Tribes was local, you know, Dayton hardcore.
Oh, yeah, I love 12 Tribes.
The skate park show. There you go. So I looked up to those guys, like they were it for me, you know, like I loved that band. They were my favorite band for a while, and I love those dudes, love their music.
Great dudes.
Yeah, and they we got friendly with them, and they asked us to open for them. We opened for them a couple of times, I think, and that was like probably one of the bigger ones that I can remember.
Well, also, I mean, I think the first one I did with you guys, was that the one where we opened for Dysrhythmia?
Yeah, there's that too.
I mean, that's a pretty killer, because that was the first show, right? Wasn't it?
No, maybe. Yeah.
I think that was the first show I did with you guys.
You might be right. It was at the Grange Hall, and yeah, shit.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just coming out swinging, I suppose. I mean, that was a great show.
I mean,
I got through it.
That's a pretty big opportunity right out of the gate.
Yeah.
But to me, it seems like, with how eclectic your scene was, maybe you didn't play these massive shows, but there was certainly a lot of opportunity to make your way out of your local area. Maybe not so much as playing, but the reverberations of your music being felt outside of your area. You made it to Pennsylvania. I got to hear you guys back then. There was the buzz about you guys had been like you fit in with the screamo bands, but you had melody, and I remember that being a pretty big deal in that ebullition era, where there was a lot of purism going on, where if you got too melodic, it was sellout or whatever.
Right.
But you guys kind of did it the right way that people didn't get pissed about it.
It's really, that big part of that, I think, is like, that's why we wanted to get a singer like Michael. Was like, we had another guy that Michael mentioned earlier for a little bit in the band, and he was really good as far as being just like a heavy, like screamer type vocalist, but like he couldn't really, like, he tried, but he couldn't really sing that well. And then so when we got, and I think Wendell and I had this in mind pretty early on, like we wanted somebody that could actually sing, because we could like scream our heads off. We had already proven we could do that, and like we did that a lot. But we were like, we want somebody that can actually sing, because neither of us were really that confident as singers. And we were like, we're like really just okay. I mean, me especially, like I couldn't fucking sing.
I think it's fun.
Surprise, bitch.
I think it's fun to have like
figured it out on the job.
You have an idea of what you want as a singer when you're bringing somebody on, or like when you're getting ready to bring somebody on, you have this idea in your head. And Mike does this to me consistently through the years, and I love it. He just shows me, it's like, you're the brother I never knew I needed. You just show me the what it could be in a different way that is something I couldn't fathom, and that's what I love about it, because there have been some songs that we wrote without Mike, and we kind of finished them, but we never did anything with it. And then he picked up on it and did something completely different, and I was like, "Damn it, I'm not good at this." That's why we leave this to Mike. So I think it's that sense of surprise and wonder every time I send something off to Mike that I get excited about it. So,
well, and also,
like, us as kind of the songwriters, the three of us, really in a way, main songwriters for the material. There's just this kind of synergy that's built in, because we kind of grew up together in a way, and like these two guys, how they play and mesh together is just, it works so well. It's like fucking Hansel and Gretel. No, Bert and Ernie. And I just love it. I love how they play and riff off of each other. And the thing is, I can get tracks through, and I'm like, I kind of can hear what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go for the most part. So it's easy to kind of lock right in. And we've just found a system that works again for the new stuff, which was cool. And I didn't know if we'd be able to find that, if I'm perfectly honest. It was this thing of like, it would be cool to do some Shadyside songs, but I don't want to continue doing the same shit I was doing before. How do I kind of rework that? And we've ended up finding something pretty cool, and I'm excited for people to hear. First,
I was gonna say, I always speak to like that, what you said, like in your question about the whole like original like screamo sound, like the ebullition sound. Like we definitely unconsciously really kind of had that, I think, with our early stuff, and it was all just screaming, because, and I think I pulled Wendell into it a little reluctantly at first, but like I was just like, no man, it's just gotta be heavy, we just gotta fucking scream like everything, And it was like we tried to sing, but it was pretty bad. But then at some point, you know, you're transitioning from the late 90s into the early 2000s, and we really started getting into bands. Like, obviously we were like really big like Deftones fans,
Oh yeah.
but then to that point, like I saw the first time I ever heard or saw Glassjaw was opening for Deftones, and so we really got into that sound. And so like I was saying, we really wanted someone that could like actually sing and emote and like, you know, actually could, you know,
Bring the mood. and-
bring the melody. And it was like we wanted to have that be a part of our sound. And I think that like really kind of became the thing. It's like we wanted the heavy gnarly shit, but we also wanted that really like awesome melodic singing as well.
We wanted the hooks in there.
Yeah, and minus all of the woman hating that came with the lyrics from both bands, as much as I
Right.
love them.
Oh yeah.
Who? Wait, what?
Glassjaw, especially, as much
Oh,
as
right.
God, that
It's
that
pretty
first
brutal.
full length. Whew.
Yeah, it's he's angry. That's a breakup.
I mean,
right?
you know what?
Yep.
You know what though? That spoke to me as a 19-year-old.
It spoke to me too when it came out. There's absolutely no getting around it. I'm just, Michael, your approach was never quite like that direct in it, in the vitriol. You know, as you said, you were into the beat poets, and you were alluding to things, but you weren't quite nailing it on the head in such a barbaric manner. There was an art to it, which I think captivated a lot of people, especially when they're considering the lyrics, you know, and actually paying
I guess,
attention
you know,
to it.
it's funny because you never think about it. You're just doing what is coming naturally to you. And, you know, looking back, it was a very peculiar way of writing and performing. I mean, not super weird, but I was definitely very flamboyant, you know, and twerking about and like, you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I used to do some weird shit. I mean, it must have been quite bizarre for some people to witness. You know,
I thought you reminded me a lot of like a hardcore version of Brian Ferry from Roxy Music. Like that's a compliment.
I know.
And you know, like the way you would emote and kind of, you know, become spastic in a way. It was fun. It was fun to watch, and it didn't feel like you were putting on airs necessarily. It didn't seem rehearsed.
Yeah, it definitely was not rehearsed. No, I couldn't repeat
No,
that.
that was one of the great things about some of those shows. When Michael started coming into his own, he got a little more comfortable, and like we got
drunk.
well, maybe I don't know, but I mean, we got more tight as a band, and you got more comfortable and more into your role as like the front man. Like you got weird with stuff, and you like, you know, wore weird stuff, and you were just running around like a madman and like using as much of the stage as you could. And
Props. Often had some props of some sort, masks and things. I mean, I used to wear a 3-piece suit a lot. That would kind of the later years became, I think, more of my thing, wasn't it? Like, or at least I remember a bunch of shows where I was wearing suits.
yeah.
I can imagine a very long-haired Johnny Depp dressed up as the Joker.
Yes, I had long hair at the time.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I had hair at the time.
I had hair back then too. I remember hair.
Well,
Chip still got some good hair.
I did not.
Yeah, Chip. Share the wealth. No, I still got some hair, but you know.
Yeah, lucky you.
But it was, I mean, I definitely struggled with looking at the audience when I was first starting out as a singer, you know, especially when I was in Pawnamia and the early days of Shadyside. But the thing is with Shadyside is that those like hall shows, you're on the floor, you're not on a stage.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get away with having your back to the audience, moving around. People are kind of circling you slightly. It's okay. Once you start playing on stages, you know, if your back's to the audience, it's very apparent that, you know, you don't want to look at us, you know? But yeah, I think, you know, I definitely would lean on drinking and stuff sometimes. And there were definitely some shows where I had one too many and was way pitchy.
What is you for, my friend?
You know, I didn't
Yeah.
remember some shows even. You know, it was crazy times at certain points in that band for sure.
Do you remember, Michael? Do you remember that Yellow Springs show? We played at the I think it was called
Web
the Web.
Coffee House. I know
Yeah.
because there's photo documentation, so I do know the show. Yeah,
There is some pretty amazing photos of that.
there are some great photos from that show.
Our bass player Vince, he was he took things to it. He took things to an extreme that night, and like I don't think he remembers that show at all.
I definitely remember the show because
I don't think he barely played.
There was like a low ceiling, right? So it was like just 2 feet above people's heads or something like that. And it was covered in like fairy lights or something. And the whole, there was just this glow, and you could see kind of heads and slight faces in the audience, you know, and it was packed. That place was packed. But it was a magical show for sure.
That was a fun one. It was a fun one, but I remember afterwards I was like, I'm gonna kill you. I was like, to Vinny, I was like, I'm gonna kill you. What's wrong?
Kill you.
What's wrong with you? Yeah, well, you know, I mean, we all had those moments back then.
Of course. And you know, you kind of, the more you play and the more you tour and whatever, you kind of like.
Hey, speaking of that, remember that time we all drank absinthe? No, I'm kidding.
That's a good one. That's a good story. But yeah, you kind of develop like, okay, what works for me? And you know, lately it's just not drinking is working for me, you know, so much better. And you know, if anything, I'll have a single drink if it's been a day and I've got to do a show or something, and you just got some kind of other shit going on. Just, you know.
I think that's kind of one of the best things about you know, being in your 40s and still rocking out is that there is a level of maturity and clarity, you know, from the wisdom divined over the last 20 years. And I can't say that we were ever the wildest band on earth, but we definitely had fun. And it's all part of that you know, experience growing up.
Yeah, well, we always took it seriously. You know, I think that's the point. We always did want to go out there and crush it. And sometimes that came simultaneously with having a good time, you know. Let's crush it. 40s. No, that was.
Now it's like if I look at a gin and tonic, I'm like, bro, you want to be alive tomorrow? And that's some kind of weird zombie person.
Stay alive, survive.
So back in those days, how far out of your area did you guys actually get to play? Did you get to branch out many states away, or just?
We were like, I want to say like we didn't tour a ton. We were more like, we did like Weekend Warrior stuff. It was kind of like, we did like a little here, a little there. And
there was stuff in Michigan. There was stuff like out east towards DC that way on that trail.
Yeah.
And
we got out to DC. And we played up in Michigan a lot. We had good friends in this awesome metalcore band from Michigan called If He Dies, He Dies. They were great friends of ours. We did a lot of shows with them up there, down here.
We did a lot of like Dayton or Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, Louisville shows.
We didn't make it that far out, honestly. Like, so I'd say DC, and then we played like up outside of Chicago. I think was probably like the furthest we went, and like Nashville, you know. So
by the time we were done, we were definitely a hometown band. It seemed like every show we played towards the end was huge, and in its own right, I think that felt good. It was just build something here in Dayton that went really well, but still, everywhere we went, I think we played well and people liked us. Mostly the other bands really liked us, so we were like a band's band and a hometown band.
Well, that said too, I gotta say, like, we really kind of, the band sort of ended right when we were hitting our stride. I mean, like we put out the record that we put out later in the past when Michael was in the band. it was like within a year of that coming out, we broke up. I mean, it was like we were just starting to hit it. Like we were getting really tight, playing a lot, starting to play out of town, and we were just starting to get all the wheels turning and everything.
All right, Chip. Come on.
You know,
You're laying it on thick, bro.
You know.
Chip is just releasing some aggression tonight.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
No, but
it is,
you know,
it is
I
true,
mean,
though. It is true. You know,
that's just how it went. Like I think the
Opportunity knocks, man.
yeah, opportunities were starting to kind of pick up, but then right when that happened, it just so happened that the band ended. You know,
And none of us were as sexy as you, baby. I like that it makes you uncomfortable because I can see your.
So,
but yeah, no, it is true. You know, we were doing some really fun shows around that time. You know, Jillian's as well. That spot down in Kentucky, right? I think
that was the last show.
Yeah, I know. I remember it was
The last show
Before the reunion.
Yeah, before all the reunion shows.
Right. It was a hard one, that, you know, because it was. And here's the thing, like, you know, I had a lot of people, a lot of the band fans and friends being like, "You're awesome," and blah blah blah, and like I didn't think I was. I was like, I've got more to do, more to prove, and so much further to go with what I can do. And I just felt like it was easy to sit back and just do this, and I didn't want it easy. You know, I felt like I had more to do, and then had this opportunity, you know, to go to drama school, one of the best in the world. And I was like, all right, that's a sign. And I took off. But, you know, that it's, you know, wasn't with deep regret that happened, because these guys were, you know, we were best friends, and we still are fucking so close, and have a WhatsApp group. We text every day and all that shit. And, you know, it's like it's not breaking the band up. It's kind of breaking up a friendship in certain ways, and not friends, but like it was, you know what I mean, right?
We always
used
had
to
the
see
motto,
each other every other fucking day.
We always had the motto that we were bros before we were a band, because that's what it was. We all became friends, and then we were bandmates together. So, as difficult as that news was, I mean, it was still easy because we recognized the talent in our friend, and you can't hold people back from opportunities, especially when you know they're going to go be rad at it. So it was bittersweet, but I mean, we're bros to this day. We still talk.
I pretend to be you, you pretend to be me.
What's that?
I pretend to be you, you pretend to be me.
Yeah, man.
Opportunity. That's an opportunity.
So was there a level of like I don't know, rekindling of the friendship when you guys started to, you know, play reunion shows and stuff again?
I don't think it ever really left, to be honest. It was like there was a little tension there. Like I'm gonna say, you know, for my own part, like I was pretty crushed when I found out that Michael was like, I'm gonna, you know, I'm quitting the band. I'm gonna go to acting school, blah blah blah. But then we saw him in this do this performance, and I saw him do his thing as an actor, and I was like, oh shit, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I think all the tension was gone before he left. So.
Yeah, I totally get it. But then, you know, it's not like he didn't leave for like another year probably. So it's like we broke up, but then we still hung out. We still hung out, and then within like a year, less than a year, we were like doing it. It's kind of silly to say it, but it's like we broke up, but then like in less than a year, we were doing like reunion shows, because we were like, oh, well, we still love doing this. You know, we still love playing together, and we had so much fun hanging out. And then it was just like, oh, well, yeah. And then, like I said, we knew how talented Michael was as an actor, and we were like, oh, well, you know, you got to go do your thing. You got to spread your wings and go. And then, you know, that was just it.
I mean, you made us proud, boy. You made us proud. Look at you now.
Right.
I say that as I rub my white beard.
Gandalf.
No, man. In this whole new experience, like it's been amazing. I don't think our relationship was never proximity related. Every time Mike came back to town, everything picked up where it left off. The feelings were all still there, so we never had that to overcome that. I don't think, because we're all from the same place. We still experience the same things. We still talk about all the hardships and things we're going through in life. It's just that there's a different dynamic with everybody having families.
Yeah.
So being grateful for friendships that last this long, while also growing in your own life. That's just a part of it all. So I think in some way it's nice to just get back to this and have it as an escape and a release and expression, just any way just to kind of take the edge off life. And I think for me, performing and writing with everybody and having this, something that comes together is close to like a church experience that I'll ever have. So, I'm close to God on stage with these dudes. It feels great. It's different reality.
Spiritual.
Right. So
yeah.
That's been part of it. I mean, I think there is something shared when we all. It's I can't.
It's a band where the sum is greater than its parts.
There you go. That's it. Think about like all the pieces of the triangle in Zelda. I didn't play it, but you know what I'm saying?
The Triforce?
Right,
The Triforce.
Together, just emanating our thing, doing our shit. And I think that's what feels good about it. It's because, we can say this is ours. And, to have that with friends of 30 years, people don't even have friends for 2 or 3 years sometimes. So I'm thankful for our relationships.
And now to come back now and to, this endeavor, this record is easily going to be the most widely released piece of music you have all collectively together embarked upon.
Right.
That in and of itself has to kind of feel like a win.
Yeah,
especially like the way I had initially come across Shadyside material was from cassettes from friends of mine from your area who sent them along to me.
That's so cool.
It's amazing, but now it's not so difficult for people to find that older material because it is available on streaming services. But this is something other. There's going to be a vinyl document of it, which is absolutely incredible. It's exciting as hell.
Yes.
The opportunity to work with Austin, how did that come to pass?
I'll play it to Michael on that one.
God, so we've been through a journey with this record, and I mean, we actually finished it almost 2 years ago or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, name names, but we went through 2 different labels with a couple different issues. Anyway, so things got drawn out. There's bad communication with one. The other one ended up kind of having financial difficulties and having to pull the plug and found out about it last minute. And it was one of these things that just didn't have to go on as long as it did if there was a little more transparency with what was going on. But it did. And, there was a real desire after that point with all of us, like, well, let's just put it out. Just put it out ourselves, get it out. And then, I'm buddies with Casey at Iodine Records, and he's been a really great ally over the past few years. And, we've connected a lot over various different things. He introed me to Austin, when I was talking to him about what our needs were, what we were after. And, we weren't wanting some massive label. We just wanted somebody who cared about art and putting out a piece of art that's something we care about, and something where the vinyl kind of feels like it's part of that too. And, Austin has a real great sensibility for the, I hate to call it a product, but like the product itself, like making it feel unique and DIY. And I'm excited to see what people think of our what we have cooked up for the vinyl.
Yeah.
it was a very big relief to have somebody that was into the the tactile product actually being as close to art as it can be in the old album format.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we were into. We liked artsy stuff. We have an appreciation for it. So to be able to work with
Absolutely.
somebody in that. Well, somebody that had great ideas to begin with, that's exciting. Be like, all right,
Well, it's
cool.
also like it's not a fuck. It's kind of it's not a dying thing, but it's hard to come by because everything's so digital nowadays, and everybody's so obsessed with like, well, you don't even need to put a record. Just put your singles out, get on playlists, and there's not like this big emphasis for like putting together a piece of art, right? It's different in every scene, but that to me is important. What's the piece that you're presenting? How does it all tie together? How does it flow? What's the packaging around it? The pictures.
We are the last gasp of album oriented music, though. I mean, if
I reckon so.
When we were all young, a lot of times you were buying a record predicated upon whose thanks list they were on,
Yep.
or what label it was coming out on. And I think there's a modicum of that built into being on Mind Over Matter, because he puts out Damien Moyal's solo stuff. He reissued that Guilt record, which is an absolute masterpiece. He resurrected it. So many great artists are aligned with Mind Over Matter that there's a part of that alive in that again. People are going to buy this record not even knowing who you guys are, just because it's on Mind Over Matter, and just because they like the other artists that are aligned with that label, and they're going to buy it due to that. And you're going to catch ears that way. And sure, it's not going to happen in the same way as like ending up on some, fired up playlist, but these are the ears you actually want, right?
Yep.
These are the people that are going to get it, and they're going to, get that emotional tie that we were talking about earlier to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a phenomenal opportunity for you guys to really, get heard in a meaningful way again.
That's cool.
I certainly think so anyway, but who am I?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
We always wanted to just do this to help, I don't know, so someone else could feel the way we felt about music. They felt that way about us, and that's still, I think, what we're going for. But to find a little success and just feel good about what you did, that's always nice too.
I gotta say too, I mean, to actually get Shadyside on wax, like, that feels really good. I mean, this is something I wanted to do for years, man. Like, we almost did a 7-inch back in the day with a small label, and things fell through, and it was like that was the only thing I wanted back then. It was like, first it was like when we first started, we're like, you gotta have a demo tape. Everybody had a cassette demo tape, right? Yeah. But then it was like the next step is like you had a 7-inch. Everyone had a 7-inch, and it is like we almost got there. And then obviously CDs started coming in, and it became that much easier. You could burn your own discs and all that. So that became
a lot of that.
Like, yeah, a lot of that. But I mean,
me and Chip, we used to come over to each other's houses, and we brought a list of like a burning list. And I think I'd like leave you with a stack of CDs. Yeah, get those for me done, bro.
Yeah,
leave me with a list as well. I still have one of your lists. I found it. I think I texted it to you. But, because I used to be the special order guy at Dingleberry's, so I had good access.
Michael was like the only dude. He's the first dude I ever met that had a bigger CD collection than me. Like, I went into his room the first time we like hung out, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Look, see, there they are. I just realized they're behind us. That's part of that's a little chunk of them, but
nice.
Yeah, that's the one thing, like, when you work in a record store, it becomes currency. What I mean? Like I managed a record store for years, and sometimes I just wouldn't bring home a paycheck. I would just haul records and CDs home and be like, I felt
Yep.
I felt more wealthy than I would have had I 3 times the amount in cash.
Yeah, and
oh,
the
yeah.
joy of sharing something new. I mean, this was something that we were all of us, I'm sure I can speak collectively, were into, is like the joy of bringing something that you found from some fucking weird little label, being like, guys, this sounds like such and whatever, and then all of a sudden you've got like a new rabbit hole to go down, you know. But it was always fun to kind of find a new discovery and bring it to the guys and see what they thought, and vice versa, you know. Found out
yeah.
so much new music just back and forth all the time. Like, it was
It's funny
exciting.
because that's half of our WhatsApp chat.
Yeah, it's true. Still is.
You guys check out this band.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying about this record. It's not going to live, you know, online. It's going to live in a record store.
Right.
Kids are going to grab this and you know, show it to their friends, be like, dude, look at how cool this is. You know, it's not just, you know, the music component is obviously the most important component, but everything else, the tactile experience, the, you know, taking it out and the ritual of putting it on, you know, the turntable and dropping the needle, it's like church to me. Just like you said before, Wendell, about you know, the spiritual experience of playing on stage, which I fully see and I reciprocate that. But putting a record on a turntable, like, look at behind me, that is
Right.
that is my religion, you know.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And now you finally get to have that. I think that's just amazing. But
It is.
I want to left field you guys for a minute, just based on a conversation we are all either married or have been married,
Both at the same time.
or both at the same time. My wife and I just had a debate that I want to field to other married or formerly married people, and it's crazy, but I have this thing where I will not allow her into the bathroom with me when I'm using the bathroom. You know, it's my thing. She claims, she thinks it's a trust thing. Like, it's because you don't trust me. It's like, no, I just don't want to shit in front of anybody. I don't care who it is. I don't want to shit in front of them.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced this? A, and B,
Yeah.
do you think that's a trust thing, or do you think it's just like you don't want to be gross in front of someone who you want to be attracted to you for the rest of your life?
Yes. Yes.
It's a yeah to all those things. No, because Nadine talks to me through the door, and even that is like kind of slightly an invasion. You know, I'm like,
Thank you.
I'm pinching right now. There was a loaf of bread that needs pinched.
I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but I will shit in front of anybody.
I can't
No, I know
fucking
you
do it.
will, and I've shared a hotel with you before, and you've had the door open while you're shitting, man. I was like, oh my god. So, hey, you live with me, you gotta deal with it, bro. I was like, oh, that is gross.
I can't fucking do it. I cannot
can't
do it. Thank you, because she swore, like, if you talk to Malarkey, you better ask him this, and I guarantee he's going to say no. You echoed my sentiment.
Totally.
Vindicated.
It's a private time.
It is.
But I'm also like,
time.
you know, I'm also quite a private person. Like, when I'm in the even when I'm in the bathroom, like kind of brushing my teeth or whatever, I don't want to have like a whole conversation while I'm doing my bits before bed. You know, it's the same with me. I just like to have that. That's a peaceful downtime moment. Taking it down,
ritual, right?
your teeth.
It's decompression. It's
Listen,
like when you first walk in, literally, when you first walk in from work, the first thing you don't want to do is have a conversation. You want to, you know, kind of
take a shit.
Weave your way through your day, like just get everything that happened to you for the past 8 to 12 hours off of your back, so you can be your best self in front of the people who love you and you love, and you know, you don't want to bring that baggage to them, and I don't want to bring my fecal matter to that situation either.
You totally brought the image of you weaving a shit web into my mind when you said that. Take a strand of shit and make a web out of it.
Now you can come in, love.
30 seconds.
Yeah, well, no, it's true though, and I mean these things are. It's just all about boundaries.
There's no boundaries, man. If you're
all about boundaries. knowing your own boundaries, what you're comfortable with, and expressing when yours are being crossed and how you express that. You know, and I think this is big boy stuff. We're big boys, you know,
Yeah.
but it's even big boys have problems with boundaries, you know, on both ways, back and forth. It's a lessons I'm constantly learning every day, you know, as you all are with kids and stuff. It's like if you keep the boundary too close to you, you go nuts and you get claustrophobic and you're just giving everything, and you know,
They
you
don't
be
learn.
cruel to be kind in a sense, and set a boundary that feels mean at first because they're crying. But then once they realize that that's the boundary, you have your space, and you know it makes you a better person to be around. You're not feeling like you're pushed up against the wall or someone's talking to you while you're taking a shit. You know.
Yeah, but do you,
Oh, hey,
I feel like my boundaries are a lot more loose when it comes to my children, especially my little boy, because he is
Oh
so young and innocent. So
yeah.
like that kid can do basically just about anything to me, and I'm kind of cool with it. It's weird.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. Sonny busted on me sometimes. I'm like, dude, you gotta go. You can't just be up in here while I'm trying to do this. That's the difference there. It's your child, you know. There's a level of grace you give your children you would never give anybody else. Until a point, you know, when they're old enough to be responsible for themselves. But while you're teaching and showing them the way of the world, it's a toss up. You
Well, my
know,
hard
how
thing
strict
too,
you're going to
it's
be
like
about whatever boundary
so
you have.
so empathetic to the point of like pain sometimes with the kids.
Yeah.
Like one of them's really struggling. Like I can't help but want to fix it and solve it immediately. And it's not always the right way, you know. You can't
Yeah.
just rush to aid every 5 seconds because then you're gonna develop a crocodile, you know, a crocodile princess. And they'll be crying over every little thing, right? So it's about learning how to mediate your own triggers that make you want to rush to someone's help and go,
Mhm.
how do I work through this in a way that's actually going to help both of us and not create a codependency or whatever, you know.
I think the best thing about being
My
a dad is
youngest definitely
learning
is
about
like,
yourself.
he's the sweetest, and I really struggle with that one, like not giving what he wants all the time.
Well, it becomes very tenuous though, because like I'm constantly flashing back to, like, you know, as much as I love and miss my late father, he was a very hard man, Vietnam veteran, like Army Ranger, tough. Uh,
Mm.
uh, I'm constantly finding myself trying to almost make up for everything he had done with me that may or may not have been not very empathetic or loving. And I don't want to end up creating, you know, this porcelain doll of a child. And I think sadly it was somehow simpler for me to delineate that with my oldest child, because I was in my 20s and I was making a
Mm.
lot of mistakes. So I kind of let her make her own mistakes back then. Now I'm like a helicopter dad, and it's hard to rein that shit in, you know?
Oh, bro. Yeah.
that's probably got to be more tough in your situation where you were a dad like early on, and then you had all this time, and then you had another kid, and so then you're just probably like way more overprotective over this second kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can speak for me. Like my kids are, you know, 4 years apart, 3.5, or yeah, 4.5 years apart. So it's like they're decently close. So it's like it's definitely that element of baby and my youngest, and trying to break from that. It's tough though, man. It's really tough. Try not to
Sounds like
be
we're
that.
all experiencing a similar thing with that.
Right. You never know
Absolutely.
the last time you're going to hold your kid, right? So there's a fine balance between being dad, like, hey, listen, and get over here.
Yeah, yeah.
And that brings an interesting element to your music too at this point in your lives, because now, like, back then you were creating music together, you were still like in the throes of youth, or maybe the death throes of youth, whereas now you are fostering youth. So like there's that dynamic too. uh that has to somehow play into the way this is all created as well, I would imagine.
I would say that like one of our jokes about ourselves that we play like dad rock hardcore and dad rock emo, because there's a lot of melody in there, and it's got that feel. So I think that might be just that might be present in the music some bit because of just how we've grown, and we all had children roughly around the same time. And
well, also like for me, I mean, the record I wanted to make not a record for the kids. I kind of say that as a joke, but like I wanted it to be something that I would want to listen to at that age and get. But also, there's a lot of stuff about fear on the record and like big themes, but relatable themes. And my son is actually on the cover of the record, slightly obscured, and there's all these bubbles flying up. And so yeah, there is a kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's not like a concrete theme in my mind, but there's a lot of pieces there that kind of make up that feeling of youth, I suppose, and pushing through and overcoming fear and getting on with it.
No, I mean, I'm really proud of this album, and I think that's the best feeling of all. We walked into the studio, we had 4 days to get it done, we killed it, and Mike did an excellent job taking what we did before, making it huge and sound great, and it felt as a sense of pride just going in there and being the band you always were when you were a kid, and performing at that level where you're like, yeah, we had a goal. We wanted to do something that was good, and man, we rocked that. It's something to feel good about. So to have it on a special, vinyl, a special album, that's we're hinting at it being awesome. So I think when people see it, they're gonna understand. It is exciting. It's just something that's mind-blowing. So I'm ready. I'm ready to be able to share it with the world and get some feedback. You do this in part for some feedback. So when you start to hear people enjoy it or get into it, it really starts to move you along.
Yeah, I feel fortunate too because I've lived with it for quite a while now. I've heard it a lot longer than anyone else will have outside of you gentlemen, and I have to say it's more in ways more aggressive than anything you've done previous to it, but I think it's in a way more thematic than anything you've ever done as well. It's a cinematic piece of music.
And then he came inside.
I'm sorry, you probably have to start over again.
No, just mute it if she's talking, and then you can unmute.
Sorry, that was my daughter was telling me about one of our cats.
Oh,
she should have put it on the podcast. We could have riffed on that.
Yeah, that would have been fine.
I totally missed the setup for that. I'm sorry. What?
He was saying since he's had a chance to listen to the record for a while, he was saying that it was a little more aggressive and thematic, perhaps, than stuff before. If I paraphrase that.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would say that like easily it's the best thing we've ever done together, and I think it's taken it to another level. It's like, I don't know, how bands will start out and they're a little crazy, there's a lot of ideas, they shove everything into it. We were definitely that way. Speaking for myself, the songs that I used to write, it was like, well, I got these 10 riffs, I'm gonna put them all in this one song. That's how it's gonna go. But now it's like a little more refined, and we're like thinking about things a little bit more. We're trying to just kind of hone the craft a little bit, and it's a little bit more streamlined, and I think it's more to the point. And
I think it's catchier too, in a way. Like it's aggressive, but it's like catchy. I think it's just got that kind of more melodic, hardcore leaning thing than the more emo leaning thing from before.
Yeah,
I like how there are like hooks in places that you don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and how things can kind of, again, it's that whole thing I was referring to earlier, where I feel like, oh man, Michael brought something completely out of left field on me here, and I love it because of it's just not ordinary. It's something different, and it's hard to actually truly describe, because I wouldn't say it's too far off from being like straightforward and catchy, but at the same time, the things that actually like linger in your mind that become earworms aren't necessarily what you'd expect, as a chorus of a song, or it's a little line, or just part of the melody. And I think that's every couple of weeks when I've gone back and listened to it just to check on it, see it how it is. I'm like, man, we got this.
Well, I think also that's the punk roots too. You guys talked about Green Day and stuff, and like, certain lines in just random verses of Green Day songs are so catchy, like randomly, where you're like, just the way he walked down there, like you just stuck in your head.
Right.
Yeah.
With me, my first love was like Operation Ivy and Rancid, and I was coming at it more from that angle, but I think
same angle basically.
it's the same angle, but like, yeah, exactly. But we have that foundation of punk and melody, but mixed with a little grit, and I think it's nice to have elements of that in the new stuff where it wasn't so much in the stuff before. At least that's how I feel. I feel like there's a little more punk flavor.
Yeah, I think it's a little more, like I said, it's a little more refined. It's a little more, maybe a little bit more to the point, maybe a little bit more punk in that way, because it's like, not these crazy linear song structures where it's just like part after part after part after part, where it's just heavy for the sake of being heavy, and or whatever. It's like we're really trying to think about it a little bit more and trying to craft like a good song, not just throw all the cool riffs in one song.
To me, it elements of it actually remind me quite a bit of Quicksand Slip.
Ah, yes.
Because that record, I remember the very day it came out, and I'd already heard the 7-inch previous to that, having been a massive Youth of Today and Gorilla Biscuits fan before that. Listening to Slip, at first, I kind of had to find my way into that record. There was an immediacy to it, but still, it left me confounded, and I had to just immediately hit repeat and listen to the entirety of the record over again. And I think there, in the best ways, are elements of that embedded in the DNA and the bones itself of this record, because of what you'd said before. Like there are parts that shouldn't be catchy that are, and like almost choruses that they're unexpected choruses. They're aspects of it where the uplift just seems like preternaturally sneaking up on you, where you wouldn't have, like, if you're doing it by the numbers, verse chorus verse, that it may not make complete sense, but that's what makes it more fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and I love that, because I mean the whole post-hardcore thing, to put a tag on it, but like, I mean, getting into that record specifically, Slip, it's kind of a funny story. There was a teacher we had in high school, actually. Wendell had, I didn't actually have him for any of my classes, but Wendell did, and he was like, the younger cool teacher, right? Not too far removed from college at that point. And he was running, I think, the school newspaper, right?
Right.
Yeah, he was running the school newspaper, and Wendell he was in that class, and he got hip to some of the crazy stuff that we were listening to, because we were getting pretty deep into some of the underground, like hardcore and like emo stuff at that point in high school. And he got hip to, I think, from Wendell, some of that stuff. And he was just cool enough to be like, yeah. And I remember this because Wendell like told me, he presented it. He was like, hey, I hear what you're listening to, check this out. And he gave Wendell a copy of Slip by Quicksand, and it like kind of blew our minds a little bit because we hadn't heard that. It was like one of those bands we'd kind of heard of. They were on thank you lists of different bands, you know, that whole thing.
Yeah.
We had heard the name, but we hadn't heard the band. And then he gave him a copy of this record, and like we were like, oh, word, you know, like this is it. Like we didn't even know about this shit.
I
And
remember,
so
I remember
that's
the first time we put it in. It was on the
Yeah.
way to Yellow Springs for fun times and driving. And I just remember the what the hell?
yeah, oh yeah, it hit, that shit hit right away. It was like instant. We were like, this is cool as fuck. And like, so we kind of worked backwards a little bit, and that way we kind of got into it. So that's really cool. I mean, that's a big compliment. Like, I really, you know.
Well,
This
that
shit also got that grungy influence too, you know, like in those tones. Tones, man, so good.
yeah,
Love
I
it.
mean, Walter was like deep into like My Bloody Valentine and the Smiths and stuff. But that record is so foundational to me that like when I was in it was senior year, we were doing the talent show, and my friends and I got together. We were two different bands that kind of got together as one, and we covered Too Official off of that record for the talent show. And no one, like, this was Pearl Jam and Nirvana era, you know.
Yeah, right.
Class of 93. So it just completely, people were stunned and somewhat disgusted yet allured by it.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Like being in the room while someone else is taking a shit.
It could be like being in the room while someone else is taking a shit. It's like, ooh, hey.
Broccoli?
That's great.
Ketchup? You had ketchup for lunch? Yeah, that's what happened.
Real strong ketchup. I'm getting there. Yeah. Ooh. Ketchup though, like it turns black when it like dries, man. Like you wonder what it does in your guts.
Well, that's the thing. When you,
I mean, it's oxidation, right? I suppose it's like, so in your guts it wouldn't do that, right? Right?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Guys?
What?
You know, ketchup on the ketchup bottle, it goes all blackened, all
Uh,
crispy around the edge and stuff. You know, like
gross.
You're supposed to wipe your bottles, heathen.
Well, we used to polish our our drummer's cymbal stands with ketchup.
What?
It takes the rust off of chrome.
Oh,
that's promising. Yeah, put it on a burger.
Yeah, let's eat that. Just
well,
like
we used to use Coca-Cola to clean the chalkboards at restaurants.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that. You could
Let's drink it too.
Yeah, I love Coca-Cola. Don't hate me.
Oh, as do I, but I guarantee you my teeth do not like Coca-Cola.
Nobody's teeth likes Coca-Cola, but hey.
So I guess to kind of like wrap all of this up in a beautiful bow, if you were all to have a wish for what someone would take away from this record at the end of the day, what would it be?
The record.
Oh,
buy
man.
one.
Yeah. Buy the record. Buy the record. Mind over matter.
Let's think. That's a good question. Let's seriously answer it.
Just a desire to connect with the band and be a part of something that we all share. I mean, that's what I always wanted out of music, is to have somebody get lost in it and really enjoy it, feel it throughout, and be a part of the community that comes out and hangs out. I mean, generally we're kind of the people that like to strut about and meet people and enjoy that. Maybe Michael has some issues with that these days, but that's understandable when you get flocked on and you're stuck in a corner. But overall, it doesn't matter. We still try to talk to people. We still try to get to know people, include them in the experience, and
hell yeah,
the inclusivity of that bond when people are singing along with you, having a good time with you. It feeds into the whole experience, that church feeling of it. So that's all I really want.
Well, and I think kind of tagging along with that, just the feeling that we're all fans of this music, these genres, all these bands that we were talking about. You know, we're all big fans of this life, this hardcore punk, emo, underground like music. And we have been. I mean, we're like lifers, you know. I mean, we're into it. We've been doing it. We've been going to the shows. We've been playing in this band. Been trying in different bands. We've been trying to do it for years in different ways, you know. And like we love it, and like we just want to be a part of it, you know. Like that's it. Like that's all I've ever been trying to do, you know. I want to be a part of that as a musician, not just a fan, you know. I want to be playing those shows, and you know, and be a part of that scene. So
For me, like with the record, because I wanted to give something that gave people like hope, feeling of empowerment, and a sense of fun. And you know, like I mentioned, you know, the record opens up, you know, the first lyrics are "When the fear hits, settle up," and it ends with, you know, "But I won't let the wolves smell my fear anymore," or something like that. And it kind of has this arc to it like that, where it's like this kind of overcoming of something. And you know, I suppose my hope for the record is that when someone does put it on and listens to it, they get that feeling of like, yeah, I can take on the world, you know. I mean,
Face your fears and overcome.
yeah, you know, I mean, that's kind of corny, but like it's not, because it's we all go through that, you know, and we all have dark days, and we need that record we can put on that makes us come out of that and feel like we can do it, you know. And hopefully this record will be that for at least a few people, you know.
I used to call it like that, like Nirvana pain, that Nirvana angst from when I was a kid, like that, the feeling of pain that you didn't have any, like, you know, descriptors for. You just couldn't describe it, but you knew it
Ache.
existed.
Yeah.
But when you listen to Nirvana, sometimes you're like, I can relate just to the sound of this.
Yes.
Because of that feeling. And now that I'm older and that doesn't really exist in my life anymore, it's more of the, okay, I just need something else that gets me up in the morning and gets me through this next day. Sometimes it's just like that, and it's not as difficult as it used to be, but it's still present. It's like an ever-present, just a part of being human and the everyday struggle of life, trying to find the joy with the work, with the, you know, satisfaction of doing nothing or doing everything, and relishing in your relationships, you know. So it's whatever gets you through that day, and I think that's a big part of it too. You know, you get that hope for tomorrow, or that reminder of your friends. You get that understanding that not everything's always perfect, but it's cool. You know, you take it as it comes. I mean, I'm a real kind of Lebowski about it. You know, just abide and roll on. I know it's not as easy for everybody else, so I mean, hopefully that speaks to them.
Well, it's like what Michael, we've talked about before, the word "Sehnsucht." You know, like
Yes.
there's no word for it in the English language, but you know, it's that longing for something, and you don't know exactly what it is. I mean, to me, what you guys are striving for here is to maybe satisfy that feeling. You know, you don't know, like, this is the answer to maybe what we're all longing for, like, just to reach to the divine, and you know, to be a beacon for that. And I think you've accomplished that with this. This is an incredible piece of music that I think is going to resonate with people, whether they realize what scene it belongs to, or sound it belongs to, or not. It transcends that. It's its own beast.
Well, that's cool to hear. That's
That's
cool.
a hell of a compliment, B.
thanks,
Yeah.
man.
Because you never know. You never know. You just write what you know. And
Yeah.
you know.
I like to think of it as like, you know, we still get to do this this sort of art project together, you know. I mean it's just like I look at it like that, you know, like from being younger, uh getting into different types of art and getting into music, and it's like I still get to do this thing that's like this sort of long drawn out art project, and I get to do it with my best friends,
It's
and
weird.
it's super fun. It's still fun, and it still surprises me, and it's just it you know, there's nothing like it, man. You know, that's why we keep doing it. It's so rewarding. It's There's been so many times where I've been like, well, why am I still doing this? You know, I've played in a lot of different bands, and sometimes I'm like, those down times when you're just like, what, you know, what am I doing? You know, why am I still doing this? But then you get together with your friends, and maybe you start like writing a new song, and you start playing together, and you're like, fuck, there it is.
Somebody hit that
That's
right
it.
note.
Well, I think we
that's
also
it.
we have this real problem with like end gaming, you know, as a species at the moment, especially with all the pressure of looking in your neighbors' yards and shit and seeing what everyone else is doing. And you know, it's always important to remember that it's about the journey and about the real life experiences that are happening and the art of creation. And it doesn't matter what happens with the record, you know, at the end of the day. It's the fact that we've got together and we've done this, and that it is going to float out there, and whoever latches onto it, that's awesome, you know.
It's a beautiful little snapshot of us.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, us in our life right now, it's a biography, you know, it's a chapter in a biography, right?
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
I suppose.
That's kind of what I was driving at with what I was saying about the record too. To me, it feels almost like I'm getting to sort of look in your collective, like you know, photo books, like looking at your pasts together, and the way your lives are still intertwined. There's something about that almost seems like I'm like prying eyes, but in the purest way possible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, we share a collective love and pain, you know.
I think in a lot of ways, this is my most functional relationship I've ever had. It's my 5 husbands.
That's awesome.
It's my 5 husbands. 25 years, guys. I mean, in a sense, being in a band, especially when you're really at it all the time, it is like a marriage, you know. But I'm thankful that we've been able to be friends through, you know, communicating all these years. And you know, I love the fact that things can get tense, and you know, we get through it because we're obviously it's tense because we're saying what we need to say.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that a fair bit.
Right. Well, I mean, not just you, but everybody does it sometimes.
No, I know. I know.
Not everybody in the band are Libras that just take it easy. Keep on going, guys. But
yeah,
hey,
because if I don't like a piece of art or whatever, I'm like, I'm not working on that. That is not happening. That is not going in any step ever. Sorry.
Well, that's not.
I will take a hard line sometime.
But just be able to have those honest conversations that you need to have with people that you really care about.
Totally.
I mean, it is a good. Not everybody, like I said, not everybody's lucky to have those relationships, but it's also a good template for, you know, how you go about your life out there, the things you've learned from your bandmates who also happen to be your best friends and people that you work with on something super personal that you want to get right. And I love sometimes the best experiences are trying everybody's different idea just to figure out which one works the best. And especially when everybody's like, well, fuck, that's the one, you know, and you get to go.
I'm all about like best idea wins, you know, like we've been working on the new demos for another record that we're gonna plan on doing as soon as we can. It's not finished yet.
Plug.
What?
I said plug. We got new
yeah, we're
stuff
working
too.
on new shit.
Yeah.
But we just have a nice little process set up at the moment of how that works, and like, you know, best idea wins. And you know, if something comes through and they make a suggestion on something that I've sent through, and I'm like, yes, I'm all about it. You know, I don't have an ego in that respect. I just want the song to be the best thing it can be. And
In the
it's
same
been
respect, I
been-
love how you chop up the songs and rearrange them for us and
what-
bring some insight into something that we
Yeah.
didn't have yet. So that's fun.
I gotta say too, on that note, this whole age of COVID and remote everything and Zoom calls and emailing. I mean, obviously, like bands were doing that before the pandemic, but that almost like helped kick this into gear for us. Was we were just like, oh well, you know, like we're all not doing shit, and we got these demos, and it was like just kind of emailing stuff back and forth, like working remote, like oddly enough has like really helped the process. I think it's
Totally.
weird.
It is our COVID record, so we don't have to feel bad about our time. Like we didn't do anything with it. So
Because you're not in the room together malingering. It's more like to business at all times. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah. I mean, well, and
there's lots of malingering between
well,
business times.
It's a great word. Love it. Lingering.
well, and then I don't want to speak to stuff more recently. To Mike's credit, like, you know, we sent him all kinds of demos, and he was just like, game. He was like, yeah, you know, and he's just like figuring it out. And then we'd send him all kinds of crazy, weird stuff and old, you know, lo-fi demos, and he like was into the process and just kind of like listened to what we had and kind of, you know, made some stuff that fit it, and it fit really well actually, and it's been great. You know, it's exciting. We got some we got some stuff up our sleeves.
Yeah, and it's even more like eclectic, you know, which is the fun part about it. We're kind of pushing that out a little bit. Even more of our influences, I think, are bleeding in from times that have gone by, which is fun. But also, more importantly, it's about the process just being smoother, and we kind of are understanding a language of how to do this remotely, in a way that still feels like you're in the room. I think, you know,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Well, on that note, gentlemen, I would like to, most importantly, thank you for trusting me with having this record for so long. You know, in digital form, and even more importantly, like, you know, Michael, you and I have been buddies for a while now. Wendell, you and I have been buddies. Like, we've all kind of known each other for a while, and I don't feel like I'm intruding on anything. And that's very comfortable for me as someone who's doing a podcast, but also just as a person. You guys, you're some of the coolest people I've ever met in my life, hands down. And I always look forward to talking to you guys. And
You're very kind, man.
I can't wait to hear the next record.
Oh man, yeah. Thank you, man. Like it's awesome. It's so nice to hear like feedback like that, and you know, like let's fucking hang out, man. Let's you know, you gotta...
As it happens, I'm coming out to the show
yes,
at the end of November.
Oh, yeah.
yes,
It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
I'll come down. I'll invade Tim Anderl's apartment and stay with him and come to the show, and we can get a little crazy together.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
hell yeah.
Crazy.
We're gonna get
Crazy.
We're gonna get dad crazy, everybody.
We're getting dad crazy.
Right.
Dead crazy, yes.
Hey, yeah. Thanksgiving weekend, baby.
Yeah, which that's going to be fun trying to get away during that time of the year. But
Perfect timing. That's why we made this.
Well,
show.
that's why
It's Friendsgiving.
that's why we did it. You know, it's the weekend. You know, it's after, so it's like you've got a couple of days to figure out your family shiz, and then you know
I think it really just worked out for our schedules, but at the same time, we were like, maybe everybody will be home and just wanting something to do. So
Yeah.
either way, we'll have a good time. So,
Absolutely. All right, fellas. Thank you for letting me chew up 2 hours of your lives. And I know I'll talk to you all soon, but take care until then.
Thanks, man. You too.
Yes.
See you, brother.
See you, my friend.
See both of you soon, too.